It's hard to believe that I'm a warrior, but still, every morning I get ready for another battle. My weapons are awesome, the most powerful in the universe. I don't fight against mankind for some kind of earthly reward. Instead, I fight the powers of darkness with control of my mind. The battlefield isn't even a physical one. The battles rage within the kingdom of my heart, deep within my very soul. I truly am a warrior.
The belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes of the gospel, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit.
Hey, what is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because I am about to fill it up. You've chosen wisely. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. And I am your host, Justin. Here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome to the hero's journey. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and be sure and flick that bell and be notified of all the new shows. That way you guys do not miss a single journey. This week's journey is a little bit of a different one. If you're a gamer or ever was a gamer back in the day, I believe you're going to really enjoy this one. Have you ever stopped to wonder why there isn't any Christian video games? And if you have, your next thought would be, how do you make a good one, right? If done right, this could be a very effective witnessing and teaching tool if it's only tapped into. But I recently found out that there is one. Not only that, its creator is a member of the All Access Pass community. In this interview, we sit down with Mike Olrich, my friend and host of the Strange Thing podcast. And in this one, we travel back in time to 1999. And we discuss his revolutionary video game, Saints of Virtue. And this is a first-person shooter RPG open world concept. We're put in the position of a young man on his journey of becoming a saint of virtue. The battlefield, the human mind. His weapon, the Word of God. His enemy, it is within, battling human emotions and the struggles we battle with daily, like greed, lust, and worldliness. Pretty cool, huh? Not only was Mike cool enough to sit down and talk with us, he shared his concept art, his maps, and video gameplay. So if you guys are listening to this episode, I highly suggest that you come on over to the YouTube channel and check it out, because this is going to be a very highly produced and visually stimulating episode that you will not want to miss. But with all that being said, guys, put on your armor, grab your sword, and let's begin our journey on our way to becoming saints of virtue.
Thanks, Justin. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. You've been a huge support to me ever since I started this. And for those that maybe have seen your face, I've had him on an ad. He's been on a walk and talking about the Supercast, encouraging people to sign up and how much he enjoys it. I really appreciate that, man.
Yeah, that was fun to do. I work downtown Boise in Idaho, and right on the Greenbelt. So every day I get to go out and walk, and I usually put in my earbuds. And a lot of times, probably maybe 50, 60% of the time, because you have so much content, it's Justin's voice or Doc's or JB, as I've recently learned, is on the other end. So it's my pleasure.
Yeah, man. Hey, well, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and about your podcast. Just give everybody a feel for those that don't know the greatness that is Mike.
Oh, jeez. Well, yeah, not so much greatness. But anyway, yeah, my son and I, we do a podcast, or we have done a podcast in the past. It's actually kind of been on a long hold hiatus, but it's called The Strange Thing. I even flew my shirt today so that people could see the logo. We have, I think, about 63 episodes that are out there, working on more, but we kind of been put in limbo, and it's okay, because I think God's kind of using that as a time for us to kind of rethink our direction and our content. But anyway, it started out with us just going out and wanting to learn about strange things that maybe we ran into or whatever. And so we started the podcast, and our first topic was cattle mutilations. As a kid who grew up in the 70s, there were a lot of cattle abductions and mutilations going on around southern Idaho, where I grew up. And being about 10 or 12 and having to go out in the farm and feed the cattle at night, I would go out terrified, because of these UFOs and stuff people were seeing, and these cows that were being abducted and mutilated, that I would go out, and it terrified me. And that stuck with me all my life. So later in life, when we got up here and got settled in Boise, Idaho, and my son was older, I thought, you know what, if we do a podcast and go out, I'd like to research what was going on with cattle mutilations. And that's kind of how the podcast got started. And we've done a bunch of episodes on a bunch of different things. And part of the reason that we're on a hiatus right now is that along the way, I ran headlong into what I call the Grand Conspiracy. And that's something that maybe people will know as the Divine Council worldview, the Watchers, the Nephilim, the unseen realm entities. Realized that maybe those things are actually real. And it changed my focus from, hey, this is so fun, to, oh gosh, what's my responsibility in telling people about what these are? And how do I still have fun doing that, knowing some of those darker, more insidious, nefarious type things? So we're kind of recalibrating to figure out how we're gonna go forward. And it was in this lull of time that I kind of started seeing some of your stuff, doing research on Watchers and things, and that's how I ran into you. You were doing the dig then, and then you were bringing on people when you first started, like Derek Gilbert and some other people that I really looked up to in that realm, and yeah, so that's kind of how we got connected and how I started.
Yeah, and your show, man, I really enjoy it. And even Jason, once I discovered your show and actually started listening to it, I even sent it to Jason, which is my editor. And I was like, man, you got to listen to this. I was like, these guys are funny, and how they edit and put in all the little sound effects and the backtrack music and stuff. This is really well put together, man. I love this. You got to check it out. I really enjoyed it. The dialogue between you and your son, how you're always being catty with each other, and just kind of taking little jabs at each other, being sarcastic and funny, and the sound effects. It's just really well put together. I have a good time listening.
Oh, good. I know my son, he is a smart aleck. He is quick-witted. He does more impersonations than anybody I know. His Donald Trump is off the charts. He is so funny. I mean, he is just a hoot, and you never know what he's going to say. I'm kind of more thinking about what I'm going to say, so I don't even hear what he says a lot of time. And but it's real. I mean, our relationship is genuinely that way, and that's one thing I like about it is that he always says that, well, Dad, if we never have success, at least we've laid down a bunch of history for our kids and grandkids and who knows how long for people to listen to and realize how strange my grandpa was or my dad was. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny too. Like I caught a few episodes where you're trying to be serious and talk about, some serious stuff, or you're trying to push forward on a topic, and he's over there doing a Scottish accent and just kind of riding you, and you're chuckling, trying to be serious and push forward, and he's just not letting up on you. It's funny.
Yeah. We had that. One of my favorite episodes is we're doing a thing on strange gods, and we were just looking at the pantheons of gods and all the different cultures. Now, this is pre me running into the whole divine council worldview. So I just was like going around and going, man, this God sounds like this God over here. And this God sounds like that God down in South America. And this pantheon has the same characters as this pantheon. And so I was doing that. Meanwhile, my son's over here and he's like making up a song with every God of the pantheons and putting it together in like this, I don't even know. It just came. It was like, it was not even fabricated. He just did it on the fly. And every new God that we would say, he would put that in the song. And I don't know. It's one of my favorite episodes. People might not like it, but for me, it's like, oh my gosh, I wish I had that kind of wit. I wish I could just pop things off like that. But anyway, enough about that stuff. He's a great guy. I love the podcast. I can't wait to do more. And we're kind of waiting for God to give us the green light. So.
Yeah, and with that sounding so good, that's not by chance. By profession, you're used to being a techie. You want to give everybody a little bit of background on your profession and how you kind of got the skill set to do these kinds of things?
Yeah, so originally, I went to school and I didn't know what to do with my life. I thought I'd be an engineer, but that required math, and I was really bad at math. And so I thought, hey, I'll be an artist because I always liked to draw. It was the only way my parents could keep me quiet in church. They'd give me a pencil and a piece of paper. And I was decent at it. So I went into college and got a degree in illustration, a fine art degree, and started, finding out that, hey, I could make a living of this possibly. And when I graduated, there was this new thing that had just started called video games, and a new console called the Game Boy, which, if you're really good, you could draw pictures with 3 colors of green. And so I got hired to do artwork for video games, probably in like 1991. I'm guessing 1991, 1990. And I was drawing little characters for video games for the Game Boy, and then the NES, which was one of the first Nintendo full color systems. And then I just rode that for the next 20 some years doing video games. And doing that, I had to provide my own computers. I had to do my own audio. I had to do buy my own programs to do 2D art, 2D animation, and then 3D animation, and then got into some of the world building type things. And I just rode that wave all the way through. So that's kind of where I developed most of my skill set, especially in the animation video side.
But Mike, he got to digging through some of his files, and he found some of the original sketches and drawings from the designing of this game, and he was nice enough to share them with me. So I put them together in a little video here for you to see and appreciate.
And yeah, and that's kind of where. And I don't know if you want to jump into this, but that's kind of how in like the mid to late 90s, I started seeing that there weren't any games for like Christians, but there were some pretty dark games being that I was actually helping create. And I thought, I should do something that could make a difference instead of just making money. And so that's kind of how the idea for a Christian game kind of took off.
Yeah, and in this game, I remember when we had that conversation, you had said that, yeah, I made a little game, and you kind of shrugged it off like it wasn't nothing. You was like, but apparently it's got like a little occult following that people still play this game to this day, and there's little communities kind of formed around it, and had a YouTuber reach out to me and wanted to interview me about it. And then you said, yeah, it was called Saints of Virtue. And you passed me a link, and I actually went and watched that. And that was a really cool concept, kind of Matrix before its time, honestly.
Yeah, it was actually the second design that I created. And I didn't
And how
create
it
this
came
one
about too is funny. I'd love for you to get into that, because you were not saved at the time. You thought you were going into college and it was going to be a big party. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for me, I actually grew up in church. So I had always been in a church environment, but the church I was raised in was very controlling, legalistic. And so I always was a kid walking around in fear because I always thought that I wasn't good enough or I hadn't done something enough. In fact, I remember getting baptized. I think I was 13 or 14. And I got baptized because I was going on a plane ride. And I was always told by my grandma that if I died before I got baptized, I was going to go to hell. So the way to get into heaven, the God's good graces, was to get dunked in water. But every time I watched people get baptized, they had on those baptismal gowns, and that water would cause them to stick all over them, and you could see through it, kind of. You could see their underwear. And as a kid, I did not want to get dunked in a vat of water and have everybody look at my colored underwear or something. I don't know. I was just afraid. I always believed in Jesus, so that wasn't an issue. It was always that magic tub that I got dunked into. Well, I never was good at obeying rules, and by the time I got into high school, I had pretty much abandoned religion, especially by the end of high school, where I'd done some things in high school that I thought was just beyond forgiveness after I was baptized. So apparently I didn't think that sins could be washed away again, and went into college and tried to surround myself with people that were partiers, that were going to kind of have a lifestyle that was a little more fun, a little more relaxed. And in fact, when I was in college, it was my junior year, I decided I would room with a guy that I knew in college or in high school was one of the biggest partiers on the campus. So he said, "Yeah, let's room together." And I knew he started to go to church or something weird like that, but I really wasn't worried about it because this guy was legendary for his partying ability. And we shared a room together, an apartment together. And little did I know that he'd ran off with a Christian organization, got saved, and was wanting to become a minister, which he is to this day. He's a minister. And so that kind of ruined my party plans. But what it didn't ruin was tons of great late night conversations about God and his love. And somewhere along there, I heard about grace. And then I met my wife, and her dad was always talking about grace. And I thought, well, maybe God can still love me. So yeah, that's kind of the background. And it was right after that when my wife and I got married, and I graduated from college, started working in the video game industry. And then those inner demons that I wrestled with, the battle that took place inside my heart for my desire to follow God, that manifested itself in the game. That's really the inspiration for the Saints of Virtue game, is what takes place inside of you, the battles you fight, trying to be a saint of virtue. So yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, that's probably really long-winded, but that's the
no.
gist.
And you got the game case cover, don't you? To show that to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is total 90s. Think of Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. And this is one of the first examples of 3D generated cover art.
And what I thought was cool was, kind of the context and the symbolism with the game. Because that interview you sent me, that guy was talking about playing the game, and he was saying that in middle school he had a friend that his family was really hardcore Christians, and that his friend was not allowed to watch anything over PG-13, and he couldn't play games that had violence and stuff in it. But this is where he got introduced to that game, Saints of Virtue. And said they would play it every time he went over there. And he said that this game just, fascinated him, and said that there was many times he said that game, he said, would just scare the crap out of him. He said, I would have nightmares about this game. He said, but it was kind of like, Doom met Minecraft. He said, and you had this whole open world. He said, and it was like, basically, if I'm understanding it correctly, it's like you are a knight, but it takes place in your subconscious, and you're going through, and there's all these floating heads going around, and they're like demons of your subconscious that you have to face. Is that right?
It's close. Yeah. I don't know if I wasn't necessarily thinking of them as demons per se, although the voices of demons probably. The idea is that we wanted to it's a metaphor for what takes place inside of your heart and your soul. When you become a Christian, when you start following Jesus and you start training yourself through sanctification to be the person that God has created you to be, you have to do battle with these tendencies of the flesh.
Hi everybody, I'm Chris Vick. I'm the founder of Squatch Survival Gear, and today I'm here to talk to you about some of our most popular packs. In 2017, I founded Squatch Survival Gear because I was tired of seeing low-quality, mass-produced packs flooding the American market. I decided I'd make a pack that was 100% designed and manufactured in the United States, and today I'm here to talk to you about some of our most popular packs. This is the Night Howler. It's designed for EDC and travelers. As you can see, it's small. It's roughly 10 by 12 inches. It's designed for everyday carry. The pass-through pad allows you to put it on your luggage when you travel. This is the Rougarou. It's very civilianized, lots of attachment points. This is a 25-liter pack. We designed it for a little lighter load. If you need more than the Night Howler, you should try this. This is the Mothman, very similar to the Rougarou, roughly the same size, but it's designed for carrying a much heavier load. The removable waist belt will help you carry that extra load. You've also got your retaining strap if you're going to take that on a travel trip. This is the Kakamora. This would be your first 72-hour pack, as we used to say in the Army. It comes with an internal frame, totally adjustable straps, heavily padded. You can carry heavy loads, carry lots of gear. This is the Rock Ape. It's a 45-liter pack, same internal frame, same great padded straps that you like, with a few extra features. If you're wondering what's with all the crazy names, well, that's because finding 100% American made is as hard as finding Bigfoot in the woods. When you're ready to carry our packs, contact us at squatchsurvivalgear.com or any of our social medias.
Hey, if you're tuning in every single week, then that means you enjoy the content. But did you know that there's an all-access pass for less than one stop at McDonald's? It gets you a month's worth of members-only episodes, access to a private community of like-minded brothers and sisters. This also gives you a monthly Q&A with authors and speakers and guests that we've had on the show. And not only is this just all for you, you are also helping to ensure that I keep doing this show each and every single week. I know lots of people that support podcasts that if you stopped subscribing, they'd never even know you were gone because they don't need your money.
They don't need your funds. I'm a working class guy, 9 to 5, just like the rest of you. So not only am I working 40 plus hours a week, I'm coming home, reading, studying, doing interviews, cutting these videos, and giving you guys some great infotainment. So if you enjoy the content, hey, help me out with a cheeseburger or a Happy Meal once a month, and you will see every bit of that get reinvested into this show and things that will just filter straight back to you, the listener. I would love to be doing this full time, but if you're enjoying the content at the level that I'm producing now, you can imagine the level and volume of content that I'd produce if this was my full-time ministry. So thank you for the love and support and the views that I get. I'm averaging right now 13 to 15,000 downloads a month. So if any of you guys feel compelled, hey, sign up and join us on the hero's journey and get the all access pass. Because not only do you get 48-hour early access, you get monthly members chats and Q&As, access to the private community, members only exclusive content. You are also helping to ensure that I keep doing what you are enjoying. So head on over to PrometheusLensPodcast.com, follow the members link, and I'll see you guys on the other side.
And so the whole thing is a metaphor where you ascend into the realm of your heart, the kingdom of your heart. And you go through all of these things that people deal with. Like for me, it was legalism or pride or whatever. And you have to overcome those with using God's word. So we incorporated Bible passages that you would have to find in these mazes. And these enemies that would attack you were these masks of truth or whatever of the world. And you would have to basically vanquish them with the word of God. So you'd run around with a sword that would shoot fire bolts. So it was like a first person shooter, which was kind of corny, but it was also a game that had a lot of, logic puzzles and stuff like that. And then to get past a level, to defeat that level, you would have to use an actual scripture verse against the lie of whatever that was. And so that's kind of how it was created. I had no idea it would give kids nightmares. I thought it was just kind of a cool imagery, but it is kind of creepy. And, he asked me if it was planned to be a horror game, and it really wasn't. But it's funny. And you look at it now, and it's really bad. It's just bad. The artwork's intriguing, but the game engine that we used was like all we could afford. We self-funded this. We probably spent $100,000 of our own money. And that was a lot in 1990.
That's crazy.
And we spent a lot of our family's money too, which they never got back. But the game got published. It went out. It was the #1 best-selling Christian video game. I don't know if another game maybe came along later, but at least for a year or two, it was like the #1. And it got a lot of really bad reviews from professional gamers because of the limitations of the graphics. But that was all we could afford. And the other reviews were always kind of good about, and they were always from people that were playing it and would say, hey, this was really cool. This made me think. And that was the big reward when you would hear comments of kids playing the game and saying, hey, this meant something to me, or I could relate to this. That was the best part.
Yeah. Yeah. Games that's entertaining, but they make you think and they teach you, a moral lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the goal.
Yeah. It's interesting, Justin, before we did this game, and this is after I got out of high school and I was listening and reading to a lot of books, and I chanced upon a guy, his name was Chuck Missler. Probably a lot of our listeners know him in this space. And he started talking about the Nephilim, and he would talk about the antediluvian world, before the flood. And he was talking about how it could have been something totally different than the little flannel images that I saw in Sunday school. And that captured my mind. So my first game design, and there's actually a trailer on the CD-ROM that's in Saints of Virtue for this game. This first game design was about going back through time and experiencing these key moments of biblical history in a time machine kind of a thing, and presenting that antediluvian world as something that nobody had ever nobody was talking about at the time. This is like early 90s. So when I think about Saints of Virtue and that time of my life, I feel like God was like shaking my brain up a little bit. And so we did Saints of Virtue, but the real goal in my mind was to get to that other game, because that message was something I thought people needed to hear and expose some things that needed to be exposed, and that it just didn't happen. And I'm sad about that, but I know that that happened for a reason. But that game, and more importantly, the context of what that game was about, is kind of where I've landed right now. It's the same content that I hear over and over again on your show and other shows like it from so many of your amazing guests about this nefarious background, unseen realm world that is out for the destruction of mankind. And so in a lot of ways, it's like things have kind of come full circle for me from where I started to where I find myself now, kind of sitting, talking to you 40 years, 30 years later. That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I found cool was just the spiritual warfare side of the game, and its storytelling is, a lot of people think that, I get saved and I get the water sprinkled on my head or get dunked in and it's all good. I'm fixed, and it's not like that. It's just like the video game, and it's the hero's journey. It's,
it is.
You are called forth to action, and then you have to venture off into the unknown, and you have to slay these dragons.
Yeah.
And just like in your game, they are masks. They are, how do I word it? They are undesirable persona traits, bad habits, bad thinking, just all these different things that are weights on yourself. And it's the trimming of fat and the shedding of weight that holds you down and binds you in your walk. So I think that's pretty, good articulation of that story through game.
Yeah. There were a lot of truths that were intentionally buried in there like that, and we weren't, my partner in crime on this was David Slayback, and he was a programmer from Sierra Online and was involved in some of the biggest games of the day back then. And it was interesting because we would have these really cool conversations about how to personify these struggles, or the masks that we put on it, and hopefully we put them on temporarily, but they were kind of things that we'd always revert back to our human nature with, and that's what they symbolized. And so it was so cool to have those conversations, and it was a time kind of like probably what you're experiencing when you're meeting people and you're getting these new ideas and thoughts are clicking. It was kind of like that for us, and it was great.
Well, so far with your podcasting journey, has it just been you and your son? Have you had any guests or anything like that?
We interviewed a few people because we would try to, and we still want to do this. We try to go out and actually do investigations. So we didn't want to just pick topics and then do nothing. So we would go out and we would actually do a kickoff. We'd have what we call an IDL, which is an investigation destination libation, which is basically a toast to start off the podcast at a location we're investigating. So depending on what that was. So we did a show on, it was paranormal stuff, and it was in Milner's Gate, which was an old Masonic lodge. And so it had supposedly some haunted stuff. And my brother-in-law happened to be one of the managers there. So we went down and he gave us a tour and walked through it. And so we spoke to people and had them, but we didn't do like the live stuff like you're doing, interviewing me. We would always like pre-record and then cut them in. I recorded a lady who was in she was in her 80s at the time, who saw a UFO in like the late 80s in out of Tooele, Utah, on the Salt Flats. And that was great. And I was able to sit down with her, and I just recorded her talking with my wife and she's telling her story. Fantastic story. And she's not lying. Everything she said is real, because she wouldn't tell anybody because she thought people would think she was nuts or crazy. But now she's old enough that she thought, what do I got to lose? So she just told us this
she
story.
don't care anymore.
She don't care anymore. So we've done that kind of stuff, Justin, but we really haven't done the live interview, although I did buy a software application to do that I pay like $300 a year for. And I've used it only during the when we all had to like huddle away because of Corona, and Austin and I couldn't get together. So we did each other like that. But yeah, it's an art. You do a great job with your guests. It's easier to not have them call in live, because then you can totally control what people see and hear, because you get a Dyson slice. Oh, yeah. We had for a long time a long-standing joke, because a lady that commented on the show said that she couldn't stand our continual talking. She called us hunyucks. And her handle was Parrot something, Parrot 29 or something like that. So she became our scapegoat. And every time we'd start talking too much, we would say, we're being hunyucks. We're going to make Parrot 69 bad. And I'd play a little parrot squawking noise. And I had more fun making fun of this poor lady that I don't even know who she was, but she was our vent. If we got lost, we'd just start making fun of Parrot 29 or whatever it was. Those were all fun.
That's funny.
Yeah. So that's available. That's Stranger Zone at Patreon. You can just look up the Stranger Zone and it'll come up. And then AstrangeThing.com is there. We've got a Facebook group that where I just post strange things that I run into from the news, any source. A lot of it's UFOs, some of it's just weird stuff. And then we also have a page for our podcast you can like and join on Facebook as well. We're on Instagram. I haven't updated that very well, and we're also on X, which I don't even know what those are. I've been really bad in this. While I've been wandering in the wilderness, I've been slow in updating things, but.
Well, guys, hope you enjoy that. Be sure to check out Mike and his channel. Like I've told you many times, I've said it several times. The content is good. You can tell man knows what he's doing. He takes his time with it, and you're going to have a lot of pleasurable listening experiences, and you're going to laugh, and you're going to get some good knowledge nuggets while you do so. It's really good infotainment. Hey, until next time, guys, torch is high.
Now you have overcome the desires of the flesh, and you have entered the throne room of your heart and ready to place Jesus Christ at the helm. Congratulations. You are now a saint of virtue. And here we have the cosmic toilet bowl with fear, guilt, shame, worldliness, and all of the desires of the flesh getting flushed down the drain. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
With Jesus Christ as the Lord of my life, I am a warrior who fights a never-ending battle. I possess the most powerful weapon in the universe and study it so that I may fight victoriously against the powers of this world. I am becoming a true saint of virtue.